Deadly Aokigahara Forest and the cursed box that demands human sacrifice. The film opens by showing a forest ranger carrying out a patrol around a forest known as Aokigahara Forest. Aokigahara is a haunted forest that holds many terrifying mysteries. In the middle of his patrol, the ranger is shocked to discover two small children emerging from Aokigahara Forest in a filthy and exhausted condition. This incident naturally leaves the ranger confused and wondering how two unidentified children could be inside such a dangerous forest. He immediately rescues the two children. Several years later, the story shifts to a woman named Akina who is doing a live stream. In her live stream, Akina intends to explore a forest that is infamous for being haunted, known as Aokigahara Forest. This forest is widely known as a place often chosen by people who intend to commit suicide. The dark, silent atmosphere filled with dense trees makes Aokigahara both mysterious and terrifying. With a cheerful face and full of excitement, Akina confidently enters Aokigahara Forest. However, she does not realize that her decision to enter the forest is a huge mistake because something awaits her inside. Akina has prepared various essential equipment such as a safety rope, a GPS device, and a map. The safety rope plays a very important role as it is tied to Akina's body to mark her path so she will not easily get lost. After entering the forest, Akina accidentally notices a mysterious man. At first, she assumes that the man might be lost inside the forest. The tension begins to rise, and loyal viewers watching Akina's livestream quickly flood the comments, urging her to chase after the mysterious man. They are afraid that he may have come there to end his life, and it would be better if Akina could stop him. However, after Akina chases him, the man suddenly disappears without a trace. Akina becomes extremely confused about where he went. In her confusion, she takes out her compass, only to see that the needle keeps spinning wildly without pointing in any clear direction. Not only that, the map she usually relies on also experiences technical problems and fails to give accurate guidance. Fortunately, Akina has already secured her safety rope, so she simply follows it in order to return to the trail. But, unexpectedly, the rope instead leads her to the body of a man who has already died by hanging himself. The live stream suddenly cuts off, leaving Akina trapped in a dire situation. The viewers who were watching her live stream become anxious and deeply worried about Akina's condition, including a woman named Hibiki, who is especially concerned about her. Hibiki currently lives with her grandmother, Yumiko, and her older sister, Mei. Hibiki can be described as an introverted person who rarely socializes and constantly isolates herself in her bedroom. She usually spends her time at home reading horror articles, including those that discuss Aokigahara Forest. Because of Hibiki's habit of locking herself in her room too often, Mei becomes angry with her. To prevent Hibiki from staying in her room all the time, Mei invites her to help her newly married friends, Miyu and Teru, who are in the middle of preparing to move. The plan is for them to be busy carrying boxes and furniture, and they need Hibiki's help to speed up the moving process. Hibiki agrees to the idea, and the next day, she helps them carry their belongings. While Hibiki is taking a short break, her attention keeps drifting toward the lower part of the house. Teru and Miyu, who are curious about what Hibiki has been staring at, immediately check it and discover a mysterious object covered with cloth. And when it is opened, it turns out to be a strange box. At first, Miyu wants to open it, but Hibiki stops her while clearly looking frightened. Not knowing what is inside the box, they start searching for information on the internet, and based on their findings, the box is believed to be a cursed object. One of their friends, Shinjiro, suggests that they all go to a shrine and bring the box with them, because his father is highly skilled in spiritual matters and should be able to neutralize the curse. In the middle of their conversation, a property agent suddenly arrives and asks whether they have finished moving the belongings. Since the agent is already there, Teru asks him about the box found under the house. After seeing the box, the property agent apologizes to Teru, saying he had no idea such an item was left beneath the house. Since he is only a property agent, he decides to take the box away and throw it out himself. However, not long after leaving, the property agent is suddenly struck and killed by a large truck. That night, Hibiki decides to watch several videos discussing the cursed box, and from the information she finds, it is said that anyone who becomes involved with the box will experience a series of terrifying events and relentless terror. Soon after, Mei and Hibiki receive news from Teru that Miyu has suddenly fallen ill and is now being treated at the hospital. Hearing this, Mei, Hibiki, and Shinjiro immediately rush to the hospital to visit Miyu. Afterward, Shinjiro asks Teru about what caused Miyu's condition to worsen so suddenly, and Teru can only cry as he explains that the box is suspected to be the cause of Miyu's sudden decline. After hearing this, Shinjiro quickly decides to take everyone to the shrine with the box to consult his father, who has spiritual expertise. Shinjiro's father believes he can neutralize the curse, but he needs an entire night to perform the ritual, and he asks them all to stay overnight at the shrine to prevent any unwanted incidents. Reluctantly, they agree to stay for one night. That night, Hibiki cannot sleep and chooses to walk around the shrine, where she briefly sees Shinjiro's father reciting prayers to ward off the curse on the box. But suddenly, Hibiki experiences terrifying hallucinations and sees wandering spirits, until Mei manages to bring her back to her senses. Hibiki and Mei then return to their room to continue sleeping. However, the curse removal process takes longer than expected, so they are eventually allowed to go home. The next day, Hibiki plans to explore Aokigahara Forest with several online friends she met through a horror forum, as they all share a strong fascination with the forest and decide to explore it together. In the middle of the journey, Hibiki senses that something is strange about the forest, feeling as if it is alive, and not wanting to risk something bad happening. She decides to leave the forest and abandon her friends who remain inside. Later, while Hibiki is sleeping deeply, she has a nightmare about the cursed box. That same night, everyone is shocked by a massive fire that breaks out at the shrine, and although everyone there is declared safe, Shinjiro's father does not survive and dies in the fire, while Shinjiro himself suffers burn injuries. The tragic news leaves Mei, Hibiki, Miyu, and Teru devastated, and they offer their condolences for the death of Shinjiro's father. At the same time, a detective arrives at the hospital and reveals something extremely shocking, that the fire at the shrine was actually caused by Hibiki. The detective presents evidence in the form of CCTV footage that clearly shows Hibiki deliberately setting the cursed box on fire using kerosene, causing the flames to spread rapidly and resulting in a massive fire. As a consequence, Hibiki is named the main suspect in the arson case that led to the death of Shinjiro's father. Before being taken to court, Hibiki is required to undergo a series of medical examinations at the hospital, where a doctor named Kenji diagnoses her with schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a serious mental disorder that affects the way a person thinks and behaves, with symptoms including hallucinations, delusions, and the inability to distinguish reality from illusion. It is highly likely that the fire at the shrine was caused by Hibiki's schizophrenic condition, and because schizophrenia is classified as a mental illness, Hibiki cannot be prosecuted under the law. However, Kenji asks Yumiko and Mei to have Hibiki hospitalized for the time being. Kenji then asks about the whereabouts of Hibiki's mother, because during the examinations Hibiki repeatedly calls out for her mother, and Mei explains that their mother died 13 years ago after committing suicide. News quickly spreads that Hibiki was responsible for burning down the shrine and causing the death of Shinjiro's father, leading many people to feel hatred and disappointment toward Hibiki's family, including Miyu, who decides she no longer wants anything to do with Hibiki and Mei. Hibiki's family home even becomes the target of protests by local residents, with many posters demanding that they leave the area. When Mei returns home, she feels furious seeing her house covered with posters condemning her family, and she also notices her grandmother Yumiko sitting silently in a daze. It turns out Yumiko is holding a photograph of Mei's mother and begins to explain that what Hibiki is experiencing now had also happened to her mother in the past, as Mei's mother often experienced strange events that caused her to live in constant fear. The next day, Mei visits Hibiki at the hospital, where Hibiki begins talking about the cursed box that continues to haunt her, explaining that if the box is kept in a house, everyone inside, adults, children, and the elderly alike, will eventually die. She tells a story about a woman who, in order to protect her children from the curse, sacrificed herself by taking the cursed box into Aokigahara Forest and ending her life there, believing that by doing so, she could save her children's lives. Mei asks who told her that story, and Hibiki replies that it was their mother. After leaving Hibiki at the hospital, Mei rushes back home. But upon arriving, she becomes anxious when her grandmother does not respond to her calls, and as she approaches her, Mei is horrified to discover that Yumiko has died mysteriously with one of her ring fingers severed. Mei can only cry over her grandmother's death, and after crying excessively, she becomes exhausted and falls into a deep sleep. Mei then dreams of her childhood, seeing her mother Kotone preparing breakfast and asking Hibiki to call Mei, who's playing in the yard. And adult Mei follows little Hibiki until she is shocked to witness her younger self discovering the cursed box. At first, young Mei wants to open it, but she is fortunately stopped by Kotone, who immediately takes the box away from her children. And as Hibiki had explained earlier, it becomes clear that Kotone likely died because she willingly sacrificed herself by committing suicide to protect her children from the curse of the box, which is why neither Hibiki nor Mei ever knew the true cause of their mother's death, and their grandmother never told them either. And this horrifying dream ultimately causes Mei to wake up in fear. Suddenly, Mei feels a terrible premonition that something bad is going to happen to Miyu, so she immediately rushes to Miyu's house, where she meets only her husband Teru, along with Shinjiro, who turns out to be there as well. Mei then tells them about her uneasy feeling that something terrible is about to happen to Miyu. Teru explains that Miyu is currently outside, and he tries to call her, but she does not answer at all. Teru then remembers that his phone is directly connected to Miyu's phone, so he tries to track her location, and through the Maps application, they see that Miyu is located in Aokigahara Forest. They are extremely confused as to why Miyu would dare to go alone into such a notorious and haunted forest. The three of them immediately rush to Miyu's location, and it is later revealed that Miyu had previously been tormented by the cursed box, causing her to unconsciously wander into Aokigahara Forest. Long story short, they arrive at Aokigahara Forest and only find a car parked there, and at the same time they see two people emerge from behind the trees who turn out to be forest rangers. Teru instantly becomes furious after seeing that one of the rangers is holding Miyu's phone, and in a burst of emotion he demands to know Miyu's whereabouts. The ranger explains that he found the phone lying on the ground with no owner in sight. Not believing him, Teru searches the surrounding area but still cannot find Miyu anywhere. The ranger then seriously warns them to leave immediately, because if they stay any longer, they could get lost in the forest. Before they leave, the ranger decides to share the dark history of the forest, revealing that long ago the poor and those deemed criminals were executed there as a way to reduce the population, allowing only the wealthy to survive. And over time, people who had lost all purpose in life began coming to the forest to end their lives, which is why it has become infamous as a suicide site. They then ask about the cursed box, but instead of answering, the ranger suddenly walks away without saying another word. During their journey back, they begin a deep discussion about Hibiki's intention to burn the cursed box, believing that her actions must have had a hidden meaning behind them. Because of this, the next day Mei, Teru, and Shinjiro go to the hospital to visit Hibiki, though only Mei is allowed to see her. There, Mei asks Hibiki about the cursed box that she burned earlier, and Hibiki explains that she did burn it, but the box cannot be destroyed, and she no longer knows where it is now. Hibiki then tells Mei that she often hears strange mystical voices in her head that cannot be explained, and these voices further worsen Hibiki's mental condition, causing her to scream uncontrollably without any clear reason. As her mental state continues to deteriorate due to these unexplainable voices, Hibiki is forcibly taken by nurses into an isolation room, while Dr. Kenji explains to Mei, Teru, and Shinjiro that Hibiki's schizophrenia has been getting progressively worse, and that he will do everything he can to treat her and help her recover as soon as possible. After explaining everything, Kenji hurriedly goes to the isolation room where Hibiki is being held. After hearing Kenji's explanation, Teru decides to search for Miyu on his own, but just as he exits the hospital, Teru suddenly dies after being crushed by Kenji's body, as Kenji commits suicide by jumping from a great height. Before dying, Teru notices that Kenji's ring finger has been severed, exactly the same as what happened to Mei's grandmother. Mei and Shinjiro, unable to understand what has truly happened to their lives since encountering the cursed box, can only cry over their cruel fate, and eventually the two of them decide to sleep together, and the next morning, Mei wakes up in shock after seeing Shinjiro behaving very strangely in the kitchen. Slowly, Mei approaches him and is horrified to see Shinjiro attempting to cut off his own ring finger, but fortunately, Mei quickly snaps him out of his strange behavior, and after Shinjiro regains consciousness, he grabs a cloth to stop the bleeding, while Mei tries to stay calm and immediately takes her phone to call an ambulance for medical help. However, while she is on the phone, Shinjiro once again shows disturbing behavior by grabbing a knife and slashing his own throat, and this tragic incident completely shatters Mei, as all of her friends have now died in unnatural ways. While she is crying in despair, the forest ranger suddenly appears before Mei, and once again, Mei asks about the cursed box, and only then does the ranger finally explain that the cursed box originated from Aokigahara Forest. Although many people ended their lives there were also some who survived their suicide attempts, and several of those survivors decided to build a hidden village deep within the forest, and that was where the box came from. The ranger admits that he has guarded Aokigahara Forest for many years, yet even he has never found any evidence of the village's existence. After hearing this explanation, Mei rushes home to search for books about the history of Aokigahara Forest, but instead of finding what she's looking for, she notices something strange beneath the carpet on her floor, and when she removes it, she discovers a series of drawings revealing the origin of the cursed box, which were most likely drawn by her mother. Mei quickly grabs her phone to take photos, but every time she takes a picture, she experiences terrifying visions of women being tortured as their ring fingers are severed, with all the cut fingers gathered and placed inside the cursed box. Overcome with fear, Mei slowly steps backward, only to be shocked when the cursed box suddenly appears before her. Believing that the box must be returned to where it belongs, Mei immediately heads to Aokigahara Forest carrying the box. After a long journey, Mei arrives at a place that looks exactly like the scenery depicted in the drawings. And with her heart pounding, she places the box back in its original spot and hurriedly tries to leave the forest. At first, Mei becomes lost, until she eventually encounters Akina, who also looks confused and trapped in the forest. It turns out that Akina is not the only one who is lost, as several people she recently met are also stranded there, and they are revealed to be Hibiki's online friends who previously went to Aokigahara Forest. All of them ended up lost because their GPS, compass, and internet stopped working, causing them to wander deeper into the forest without realizing it. They decide to stick together to find a way out, and after walking for a long time, Akina becomes overjoyed when she finds her safety rope, a sign that they are close to escaping, and they all begin following it. Mei, who is walking at the very back, suddenly becomes confused when she loses sight of the others, and she follows the safety rope, hoping to catch up, only to be confronted with a horrifying sight, as Akina is found dead by hanging. And not only that, everyone who was previously with Mei has also died, causing Mei to collapse and faint on the spot. When Mei regains consciousness, it is already dark, and she is shocked to see that her hands and feet are tightly bound. Suddenly, Mei is startled by the appearance of Miyu and Teru. She is deeply confused because Teru should already be dead while Miyu disappeared and was never found. Seeing Miyu and Teru standing before her, Mei finally realizes that she has entered the spirit realm, where the village once mentioned by the forest ranger truly exists. This explains why the ranger never found the village in Aokigahara Forest, because the village actually exists in the spirit world. Miyu's spirit intends to cut off Mei's ring finger so that Mei can become one of them. Before it happens, all the spirits suddenly gather to witness the cutting of Mei's finger. The ritual proceeds, and Miyu's spirit places the finger into the cursed box, revealing that the box is filled with severed human fingers. Miyu and Teru then present Mei's finger as an offering to the spirits gathered there. While Miyu and Teru are distracted, the spirit of Mei's mother suddenly appears with the intention of saving Mei from her restraints. At that moment, it is revealed that the finger placed inside the cursed box was actually her mother's finger, not Mei's. After Mei is freed from her bindings, her mother's spirit guides her away from the village, but along the way, they accidentally fall into a deep hole. There, Mei finally learns the truth about her mother's death. Since the moment Mei and Hibiki were young and first discovered the box, their mother had been desperately searching for a way to protect her family from its curse. Eventually, she took Mei and Hibiki to return the box to its original place, but as they were leaving, she suddenly fell into a deep hole. Because the hole was too deep and young Mei and Hibiki were powerless to help her, their mother begged them to leave her behind. Although they initially refused, they were forced to obey when she insisted. It is then revealed that the two children rescued by the forest ranger at the beginning of the film were Mei and Hibiki themselves, while their mother, unable to escape and never receiving help, was trapped in the hole for days until she eventually died. Remembering the past, Mei embraces her mother's skeletal remains and apologizes for being unable to save her. Suddenly, Miyu and Teru appear above and pour all the severed fingers out of the cursed box, which slowly transform into spirits that chase Mei, trying to pull her into their world. At that moment, Mei is shocked to see Hibiki also present in the spirit realm. It is revealed that Hibiki died due to the relentless voices tormenting her mind, forcing her to cut off her own ring finger, and after doing so, she entered the spirit world to help Mei escape. Hibiki guides Mei out of Aokigahara Forest, while she herself chooses to remain in the spirit world, which will now be her home. Before parting forever, the sisters embrace one last time. The final scene shows Mei being found by the forest ranger in a filthy and exhausted condition, and after enduring all the horrors, Mei is finally freed from the curse because she has returned the box to its original place. Yet, despite being free, she is left with deep sorrow after losing everyone she ever loved, both her family and her closest friends, and thus, the story comes to an end.